It's only right to wear my Tron hoodie every time I make a Tron video. I'm going to be talking about the Tron sequel that not a lot of people know about, called Tron Ascension. If you were aware of the Tron Ares press, you might have heard Jared Leto say like, oh, the movie I've been working on for 10 years is finally coming out this month, whatever. If you were wondering why it took 10 years, it didn't. Technically, the movie has been being planned for 10 years, but it hasn't been taking 10 years to make. Could you imagine? Like a normal movie like Tron Ares taking 10 years to film? No. What he meant by that was that Tron Legacy was going to have a direct sequel in 2015. It was going to carry on with the story of Sam and Cora. Literally everything that they left off in Tron Legacy was going to continue. Same cast, same everything. It's going to even be the same director. Joseph Kosinski at the time was working on Oblivion, so he was just finishing that movie, and then he was going to work on this Tron sequel. So what happened? Why didn't they make a Tron sequel like everyone had wanted? Tron Legacy actually did quite well in the box office. It had a budget of 170 million and made 410 million. I know profit when I see it, which is what made them want to make another movie. Great. So far, so good. This new sequel was mainly going to focus on Cora and her effect in the real world now that she's out of the grid. And it also introduced a new character called Ares, who was going to be played by Jared Leto. And yes, it is the Ares that we see in Tron Ares, who was going to be a much smaller role as a villain, and because the focus was on Cora and Sam. 2015 was when they settled on a script and they were going to start pre-production in the middle of that year, and then it was when Jared Leto was cast as Ares. However, at the same time, Disney had released John Carter, which is a movie I'd never heard of before, and Tomorrowland, which is a movie I have heard of before. Tomorrowland is great. I love Tomorrowland. Anyway, these two movies flopped at the box office. They did not do well at all, which made Disney question if this Tron sequel would actually be a good idea to follow through with. I don't know why, because to me, these are two completely different things. John Carter, it doesn't sound like it's a sequel. Tomorrowland is not a sequel, it's just an original movie. So if they flopped, what does that have to do with Tron Legacy? What does that have to do with the Tron sequel? Tron is a franchise that people already know, that people have already watched, and that already has fans. So a sequel wouldn't be a bad idea if these other two sci-fi movies had flopped. It doesn't mean that it's the sci-fi movies that are flopping, it just means it's these original movies that you're not producing well. But even though Tomorrowland is good, but still. It was then that Disney decided that they weren't going to carry on with the Tron sequel because they'd rather stick to Marvel sequels and new Star Wars projects. As if we don't have enough of those. Because they knew that would bring in more money. It's like, okay, don't you have enough? Instead of creating original movies or carrying on with Tron sequels, because no one wants to see that. I do. A lot of people do, actually. So they officially cancelled that movie. They didn't really cancel it, they just put it on hold. They were like, we're not going to do any Tron sequels yet, guys. We have too many Marvel movies to make. A few years after they had put Tron on hold officially, Jared Leto, this is the funny part, he went up to production and he was like, let's amend the script. Okay. Which is when he so conveniently he made himself, his Ares character, the main character. And that's how we got the idea of Tron Ares. Because Jared Leto supposedly wanted to explore his character and see him become the hero. He was initially the villain. He was going to be the villain in Tron Ascension. But now that he's in control of the script and he became the producer of the movie, he was like, you know what, guys? We're going to make me the main character and I'm also going to be like a hero. So I think it's so funny that, of course, if you're in charge of a movie, you'd make yourself the main character. But it's funny when Jared Leto does it. Especially because his character is like said to have like a small part. Like it wasn't going to be that big of a deal in the story. His idea of amending the script is making himself the main character and the hero. And I think that's very funny. So in 2016, Jared Leto signed off on being a producer. And that was when Tron Ares started. And Tron Ares is a great movie. I will be making another video about Tron Ares, don't you worry. It's just the idea that we could have gotten a real Tron Legacy sequel back in 2015, but the only reason we didn't was because Disney wanted to focus on Marvel and Star Wars and all these other IPs, and they are still sequels. So if you can make Marvel sequels and Star Wars sequels, why couldn't they have just made that one Tron Legacy sequel? But instead we had to wait 10 years for another movie, and now they're just starting up that tradition again of having to wait like decades for the next movie in the Tron franchise. And it would have been cool to carry on Sam's story and Cora and see how Cora would have dealt with life in the real world and how she could have helped the real world, because that was the main point of Legacy, was to save Korra so she would act like what the permanence code was in Tron 𝗧𝗛𝗓. When they started production in 2016, they couldn't carry on that story anymore because they had dropped the actors of Sam and Korra, and it had been too long at that point to carry on that story immediately if they were going to start from the ending of Tron Legacy. That wasn't really an option anymore, unfortunately. And I think that's why a lot of people were upset about Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗣𝗧, because it didn't carry on the Tron Legacy story. But to me, I was aware of that when I went into Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗣𝗧. That didn't upset me at all. I knew they weren't going to carry on that plotline anymore. Jared Leto produced it, so it was going to be about him. But I'm just trying to bring up the fact that Disney once again is relying on the IP that they already have rather than just creating new movies. And obviously Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗣𝗧𝗧 is a sequel, and I understand that, but because they've waited so long to make another movie, it doesn't feel like it's a sequel, like how they're making them nowadays, like live action remake after sequel, like it's so much. But there's a difference between a franchise that needs and deserves other movies compared to others that the story has already ended. Tron, especially a franchise that needed a sequel, or does well with a sequel. And I guess Marvel and Star Wars need sequels as well because there's so many comics and stories that go with those franchises. But it's unfair to focus on those and completely ignore and decline other franchises or other new movies. To bring it back to Tron Legacy though,
now this I can do.
It would have been really cool to see Tron Ascension being made, especially because Joseph Kosinski would have directed it again, and he was an executive producer in Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗣𝗧𝗧, which might be one of the reasons why it did turn out good. But unfortunately, when Disney sees that a movie flops, that's not a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or whatever it is, they just immediately pull the plug. They said that they're going to retire the Tron franchise because Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗣𝗧𝗧 flopped. But Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 was a streaming hit. It did so well on streaming. It was first in the top 10 for like a long time. And I've seen people say that they regret not watching it in the cinema because when they watched it on streaming, they loved it. Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 is a good movie. I don't know what all the hate was about. But anyway, my point is that the whole reason they didn't make Tron Ascension was all the Marvel stuff, whatever. But because John Carter and Tomorrowland flopped, those are two completely different things. Tomorrowland has nothing to do with Tron Legacy. It just happened to be a sci-fi movie that didn't do well that year. Okay. Like, get a grip, just make another movie. You have the means to make as many movies as you want for the rest of your corporate lives. It doesn't matter. You have the means to lose money, right? People rely on you for good quality movies because you have such a high budget. And Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗣𝗧𝗧 could have been better, but I don't think it was the casting that would have fixed it, because Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 was never gonna be about Sam and Korra. Tron Ascension was gonna be about Sam and Korra, but Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 is literally called Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧. They might as well just call it Tron Jared Leto. Now it is too late to make a Legacy sequel. Disney has said that they're gonna retire the Tron franchise. I don't believe them one bit. Okay, they said they weren't gonna make a Tron Legacy sequel, which I guess they did put on hold. I'm not gonna believe anything they say to do with the Tron franchise unless it is a new Tron movie being made. Maybe we'll get a Tron 4 where Ares goes to find Korra and they work together for something. Even then, that would raise the question of what has Korra been doing all these years? Which then takes us back to Tron Ascension. This was a shorter video. I just wanted to shine light on what really happened before Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 came out. I think it's really interesting and really upsetting that we didn't see another Tron movie directed by Joseph Kosinski. But he did direct the F1 movie, which I'm still to watch, but I know it's gonna be great because it's Joseph Kosinski. That's gonna be it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 if you've watched Tron 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, and let me know what you think about Tron Ascension. Do you think it would have been a good movie if they made it? And let me know if you have anything in your Tron collection.